outside of the building. But we do know there are multiple victims here. We don't know the extent of injuries.
Yeah.
We don't know how many people. It's not a very big work environment. Apparently, from what we understand, there's only about 30 people, according to Alexi, who work there. So everybody knows everybody. And Alexi was telling us she knows these folks. She knows these folks. Do we have Jane now?
Just her video. The video you were talking about earlier, just to give an idea, they're working on it upstairs right now. So this is the tweet from Jane earlier, that medic leaving. And, you know, there have been other pictures similar to this, just sort of like a caravan of police cars. And there's one there, the sheriff's office, as you see the guys outside, clearly called right to duty to help out on the scene.
And the shooter, according to Jane in her tweet, has not been apprehended.
Yeah, and that's huge at this point.
And that is important information, certainly for the folks that live and work in that area. They've canine units searching.
Yep, and this is, you know, unfortunately, we've been through this before, and we're just sort of having to wait this out as Harford County Sheriff works to do their job. You know, we're talking about Alexi and the elation, just, you know, happy that her mom is out, but, you know, you sort of feel for her as well. She said, you know, people inside are friends to her. Right. She worked there herself with her mom. And
these are people she knows.
Yeah, you know, they go in there every day and do whatever they do for Rite Aid. I think inventory was her mom's job, is her mom's job. And, you know, you just expect to go in, punch in at 9, punch out at 5, and do it again the next day.
And we asked her if there was anything that she knew about going on at work.
Yeah.
And she said no, that she didn't know of any issue, you know, that would result in something like this.
Yeah, we're sitting here, we're attempting to get at least the most updated information, and now we've gotten to a point where we're sort of just sort of in the wait and see. Jane is out there now, and you could tell by the movement of the ambulance and seeing that this is very active still. FBI, in fact, calling it an active shooter, confirming that, and now we're hearing from Jane also that no one is caught yet. So doesn't necessarily mean out, you know, at large. Could be in one of the buildings. We don't know right now, so we're waiting to figure out what exactly that can mean. You know,
right. And they're asking folks to just please stay away from this area. A lot of the roads are closed anyway, but don't try it on foot. Don't. No. I mean, it is, you know, you might be curious, but it would be best for everyone to just let the law enforcement do what they need to do.
At this point, you're in the way. So the idea, just stay out of the way and let this progress as it
and
possibly
plus, the shooter still has not been apprehended, so there's that too.
Not a good idea.
No.
So right now, you're looking at a map. This is an idea just to tell you where things are happening at this point. 3 or 4 warehouses there. There's another to the north. There's a Clorox building, but we're focusing on this one, at least from what the call we're getting from a young woman whose mother works inside. We have a feeling that this is focused, at least from what we're learning.
Right now, online in that hallway.
Where a number of people come in and out. You know, this happened about 9, so a busy time of day. We do know the school nearby, that's on a modified lockdown. We know that their homes and businesses. We heard from one gentleman who worked in a car business saying that his customers are calling and visibly upset and emotional about it. And we also heard from someone who could see the activity very early on, and that was a true signal to him at least, that this wasn't a false alarm. This wasn't, you know, let's look and see, that this was real. And that's when we start to get idea, at least from the Harford County Sheriff's Office, as they say. Multiple people shot, don't know their state, but enough that ambulances were called to the scene, and then we saw the armed response from the Sheriff's Office as well. So this is very real that's happening there in Harford County.
Very serious situation going on. Stay clear of the area, as we've been saying, but we really can't say that too much.
No. We can tell you what some of our elected officials are saying, and as you can imagine, it's on our hearts and minds this morning. We'll go to the top. We'll go to Annapolis first with Governor Hogan saying that right now, where he is, they're monitoring the situation. He's saying that his heart goes out to the folks and supporting those who are there.
Looks like there's construction workers here.
Law enforcement goes. Also heard from Senator Cardin saying that about the same, that, you know, giving the support out to the people who are doing their jobs, his heart goes out to those.
We just heard that at 11:45 there will be a media briefing, so we're hoping to get a lot more information at that
Be on there with the utility to the command post at 2 6 o'clock.
Of course, we will be there to bring you the information. Let's go live now to Lacey. She's been filling us in on what's happening with the road closures in the area, which are significant, and that is a busy area there. A lot of folks work there, folks live there, there's, schools there. So, Lacey, if you could tell us what's happening with the road closures.
Yeah, it looks like there's houses, apartments, churches, businesses, just about everything. So let's take you up to Aberdeen, and then we're going to zoom in.
Let's move up a little bit.
South of Aberdeen in the Perryman area. That indicator I put on there with the arrow pointing down, that is where the media staging area is. It's just south of the Walmart in Aberdeen. Now, the police icon, that's the location that they've marked off for us as where the scene is. We're now seeing on our maps more road closures in the area right next to the first warehouse building that we've been talking about, which we think is the Rite Aid warehouse building with other things in it. Chelsea Road runs next to that. Chelsea Road is now closed, and then Perryman Road is parallel with that and then breaks off and goes north. So both Chelsea Road and Perryman Road appear blocked off. They start the block off around where the Perryman grocery store is. It's a small grocery store at Irish Lane, East Michaelsville Road. So Chelsea Road is closed. That runs against the first warehouse building and then picks up and continues on Perryman. Perryman continues close past Besusha Road, basically all the way through these different warehouse buildings as you eventually connect on Old Philadelphia Road, which is Route 7. Now, once you get up to Route 7, that apparently also looks either blocked or slow, stopped, and that's why it appears they're putting that staging area at the corner of Old Philadelphia and right where Short Lane, the Aberdeen Thruway is. There's a lot of businesses in that area. There's a truck center, a VFW, and then, like I said, it's not far from where the Walmart and Dunkin' Donuts and stuff is. So that's where the media staging area is. But all of these roads, Old Philadelphia, basically a no-go from Pulaski Highway all the way over to Short Lane, which is 715. Both directions seem to be jammed. 159, which is Perryman Road, that is jammed and basically closed from Old Philadelphia, so you're not getting anywhere down there towards the warehouse buildings. Besusha Road also looks slow or stopped southbound for the most part from Pulaski Highway 40. So your best bet is to just stay on Pulaski Highway, stay out of the way for these crews. Since we continue to see more roads being closed and shut down, they're probably going to detour you that way anyway. So I would stay on Pulaski Highway. Better yet, go on 95. It's clear, it's in the green. You'll completely avoid the area. It might be out of the way if you're trying to get to the Aberdeen Proving Ground or some of the other areas around here. But that is your best bet to get to Aberdeen. Jump on 95. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, thank you so much, Lacey. Let's go to the phones now. Jane Miller, we have her on the phone. She is at the scene there. She's at the area. Jane, what can you tell us?
Well, first of all, I think we also our camera shot up, so if you guys can see that, you can also see me, but I can tell you what I know from where I am, which is some distance from the scene of where this happened, because it's pretty well cordoned off in that area. We're expecting a media briefing where we are here in about 45 minutes. I just asked the Boy King 8014. 2 Boy King 8014. Is this still an active shooter situation? And his answer to me was, as far as I know, the shooter has not been apprehended. The situation is
your unified command is Battalion Chief 23 is at the Perryman Road along with Chief 49 for your medical. You have Chief 2 running the entire command from Company 2, House 4.
Multiple agencies involved, as you can imagine, with a...
Okay, ma'am. Also, just be advised, we did request an on-site medevac to be staging. I think MSP is en route. I'll follow that up with the command as well. Thank you.
Last year. Also in a business park and in a place of business. So we are awaiting more details. I can repeat what I just heard on our air, and that is that the traffic around here is definitely disrupted as this the scene around that warehouse is really sealed off. And I thought where I was, which was the end of the roadway, and saw a medic come out just a few minutes ago of that area. They also had traffic stopped. Obviously, it's a warehouse distribution center, so there's a lot of tractor-trailer trucks going in and out of that area, and they had traffic stopped, at least for some time. I was wondering if maybe they were trying to check, too, if they're still...
Surrender plan. You guys want the ball down there?
Jane, we heard from a woman
whose mother... Have them announce us to come out. I want them to step it out to the right of the door and come into the right of the building, and we'll take them.
Rite Aid facility. There are 2 buildings there that are
we're not using PA yet. We're going to use the 1021 first.
Building with about 30 or so employees.
All right, let's just have them step out. And
about that?
I haven't heard anything about the specifics of the exact location.
708. They have numbers for Kareem yet? The phone was not getting even dispatch gave, I believe, was supposed to be that party.
The County area along the 95 corridor has many of these warehouse areas because of its access up and down the East Coast. So this is not an unusual workplace for this area.
Jane, we're going to work to get a mic and stuff out to you. Your shot is up, but for now we're going to take an aerial. I think we have an aerial shot is what we're saying. Nope, I'm sorry, we've lost it. So Jane, we're going to work to get you in front of a camera so we can show folks a little bit of what you're seeing there. We did see at least one unmarked car behind you. As you said, you saw a medic coming out of that area, and we saw some of what you shot on your cell phone. Semis on that street as well, and then a caravan of Maryland State Police. In fact, the governor tweeted only a couple seconds ago, 3 minutes ago or so, saying that Maryland State Police is on the scene. They're assisting the Harford County Sheriff's Office, and they stand ready to offer any additional support. If we're able to get back to Jane and to see your picture, hoping that maybe you can point out a little bit of what you're able to see at your site. Just let us know upstairs if you can.
And she did indicate that
community center, is it okay to send clergy up there?
They have it all, you know, as you might imagine.
Yes, they're setting up a counseling area. It's in that small room. Just have them make contact up here with us. We have the whole center set up.
And just, you know, you can only imagine, you know, if you're dealing with the magnitude of what's being described so far.
So, like any of the critical counselors, any of them, they can come up.
Even at that distance, they're seeing the number of emergency crews in and out of that scene, and it's frequent, and so who knows what that means about this. But, as you wait for Jane, I think we're waiting for some tweets as well, and we can show you the governor. I'll read it, and you can catch up. We're closely monitoring the horrific shooting, the governor says, in Aberdeen. Our prayers are with those impacted, including our first responders.
All right, 10-5, my team's pushing up to about day 49.
Ben Cardin as well. He tweeted out earlier if we could pull that one up as well. He's saying, just horrific. I'm monitoring this carefully. Urge residents to stay clear of that area until further notice. And we do know at 11:45 there will be a press briefing at the press staging area, and we will, of course, bring that to you.
Sure. It just seems like it's one of those mornings that we have dealt with a number of just odd and just events here in Maryland. Just, you know, you end up scratching your head. Prince George's County, we've dealt with 2 officers there, and they were shot. We're dealing with this now. Multiple people shot in our area. Wisconsin is dealt with.
They've located more personnel inside the building in a locked door.
Get you through it at least. This is what we're dealing with in Aberdeen at least. Perryman and Spasucia. That's the specific address that we're looking at. Police made their way out about 9. Right now, at least from the call,
Cat Medic will be on its way, extension 211, will handle the Knoxville Plus.
Jane, I believe we have a
Copy the transmission on family reunification.
Jane.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
yeah, we're some distance from the warehouse area where this happened. This is an area that's been set up by the law enforcement agencies that are involved in this today as a staging area for media, so that when they brief everybody, they can brief everybody at the same time, and they'll all be in the same place. We're probably about, I don't know, 10 minutes from the scene of where this happened in the Aberdeen area, which is, the area is near Route 40 and Route 7, you know, the whole stretch, 95, Route 7, Route 40, all the way north-south, and it's in that warehouse area off Perryman Road. I was just told again, the Will Reiber from the Aberdeen Police Department, he's the public affairs officer, just repeated again that as far as he knows,
if they are witnesses, we got the buses here now. If Aberdeen's got witnesses, let us know how long before they come out. We'll hold the buses and wait for them.
In other words, there's no shooting going on anymore, but the question is whether the person who, the shooter, is in custody. He says, as far as he knows, the shooter is not in custody.
What percentage you
so
got
we
done
are
and
waiting
what is left.
to clarify that. All we know in terms of victims is the term that's been used is multiple victims. I did see one medic leaving just a short time ago from that area when I was down closer to where this happened. And there's a lot of traffic disruption. A lot of the scene was closed off all around that area, so that
I want to deconflict with you. We can start the witnesses we have are out of here. Are you okay with that?
That if they do take someone into custody, that's the person that was responsible for the shooting this morning. So again, that's as much as I can tell you. We're waiting for some clarification as to what the situation is right now at this moment. But according to the Aberdeen police, no one is in custody.
Do you have a sense that the folks around there are aware of what's going on and
That's right. I contact operators that control the admin as long as we get those out.
Well, I'm not close enough to have kind of contact with folks. I did see a lot of traffic
got 5
stopped,
people.
particularly tractor-trailer trucks, because that's the area, that's the kind of traffic around those warehouse areas at this time of the day. So obviously there's some confusion around that area because so many of the roads are closed with people turning around and getting stopped and stuck in traffic. But I haven't had any contact with anyone that was in the area when this started.
Yeah, and eerily similar to what you and I talked about a year ago. We're in, another warehouse kind of situation, a number of buildings involved, and then the search goes on, and I'm guessing, piece by piece, it's such huge buildings.
But I don't know how much.
Are you talking for medevac, or are you talking for law enforcement
I get the feeling it's really bad, though.
Either that you're aware of. You didn't request on for any of your operations here, correct?
AGND.
Mary Wood, I think, requested. I think Baltimore County responded. They're still circling, but they're over in that area.
I'm just checking with both operation sides, so
I was
you don't
just
need
trying
Triple
to
One,
get the
and there's no
bus.
need
I
for
get the
them
bus
here.
just on the way to work. It was just
Super
an
One,
average day.
medic, I believe, responding to the medic for 280.
I would say I heard 3, and then they stopped. Of course, I came in the middle of it. I started walking about 9:30. I'm told this whole thing started closer to 9, so I came smack dab in the middle of it, and it was just really unfortunate timing. And now, again, like, all the roads are closed. You said they might open them back up. And I just know a lot of people's day not only has been ruined by this and how scary this incident is, but everyone's day has been interrupted, and not only that, it's infuriating on both
Trooper
levels.
1 was requested by the sheriff's office to stand by. We're probably going to have to try to find a place for them to land.
Brief team. Work on it now. Now you're clear. Right there.
North to Chelsea is closed there, and you can see the warehouses to the bottom right of the screen right now. That's where it all kind of happened.
340, so you guys just know me. Where would you like to be at?
Exactly happened within. At least
We're actually we're at the bypass, so we can do Route 40, and where 22 dumps out, we can wait for you right there. At that, hang on, on the on-ramp.
There are 2 buildings involved in that. There's a larger warehouse.
What I wonder about, we have 3 minutes each, yeah.
Liberty building. She indicated that.
No problem. Yeah, we'll be just past the 22 bridge.
But it's the Rite Aid facility. Is what we're hearing now
What
from
I wonder about.
the Hartford County Fire and EMS.
And just hearing from producer upstairs, according to the Associated Press, they've spoken with someone affiliated with law enforcement who said multiple people killed in this event. Again, this is coming from the Associated Press, through their sources in law enforcement, leading to the explanation. They're saying multiple people killed in this event. No idea how many people or what building. This situation is kind of evolving now. We're learning more piece by piece. It's taken a bit, but that's just the way that these kind of scenes work. So we've gone through an idea where it's multiple people shot or injured, to possibly now it's sounding like, at least from the Associated Press.
Unfortunate. We were hoping perhaps the victims, maybe there weren't fatalities, but we understand now from the Associated Press.
Especially hearing a story like Alexi's. We spoke to a woman whose mother was
Correct. Operations to command.
Went through the emotion of getting a text message early from her mom saying, "Listen, I'm in the building.
Yes, sir.
You're a shooter, and I'm going to hide."
Triple One and 61 Chelsea at their helipad.
And then to an hour later, where she heard absolutely nothing, and learning that her mother was
That's probably going to be the best place, because they're just on standby. So we might just have to bring
that next. But as we've learned in the news lately, that you end up losing someone possibly. This is what we're hearing from the Associated Press, at least. They're hearing from law enforcement.
Are we allowing residents or just
multiple victims killed.
Just on your way to work, if you could take us through what your
other
morning
than that,
was.
I don't think I expected anything like this today. It was just a regular morning, a little rainy, almost afternoon, and just raining. On my way to work, just trying to catch the bus. One of my neighbors went ahead and said, "Hey, you be careful there. There's a mass shooter." And of course, I didn't think it was like here or anything. I didn't realize it was like right in our neighborhood. And I just walked right through the cemetery as I, started hearing things and sirens and police cars pulled up. And people pulled over in a little alcove to try to watch, and I didn't realize it was right here.
Do you know if any
It
canines
was
cleared
right here.
the piles of cardboard
And it was
boxes
scary.
on the
And all these
far right
ambulances
side
came
on the
in.
wall?
God, so many emergency vehicles.
That's
All the
right, we
roads got
visually cleared
cut
them
off
as well.
and shut down. And I'm told they're still
Alright,
investigating some things, and they may open
canine
roads
cleared
later,
and visual
but
cleared.
I'm told that a lot of people were hurt,
That's right.
and that some people may have died, unfortunately. And it's just really scary when it's brought to your doorstep like that. And this is usually a very calm area. It's usually just warehouses and some residential, and I certainly would never have tried to guess
aisle
an active
60
shooting
in the middle of the warehouse.
There came a
There's going to
time,
be 2 chem
you
lights
said even after you were warned that there might be an active shooter in the area, where you
the
heard gunshots.
investigators know on the
yes,
CID side
that's when it
that the
became
chem lights are
very
marking
real.
canine blood only.
Very real, very scary,
Okay.
and it looked like the authorities were taking care of it, but it was very obvious that this was still ongoing.
Come down,
and
side 3,
there was still
all
some
the way
danger.
to the end here.
Was there urgency in the voices of the officers as they were clearing the area and pushing you back?
I need to bring the flight
Quite a
crew down.
bit, and they seemed very surprised that I was even here, but I was just caught in the area when it happened. But they cut off all the roads, and it kind of had a lot of people stuck, a lot of trucks on their route, didn't know it was happening, and they unfortunately were delayed here for quite some time, and it was very confusing and very chaotic, and not a lot of people knew what was going on. And I remembered hearing one of the officers in a yellow vest saying that there was at least 3 victims, and that was around like 3:40, or not 3:40, like 9:40, 9:50, sometime in between that. And that's when it was really
What's the incident number you have open for this?
very, very real and ongoing.
Thank you very much. That's Colleen Hendrickson. She lives nearby here in Perryman, where the mass shooting occurred across the street. We're not sure, to be quite honest, which of these buildings that you see at a great distance is where this happened. It's called the Enterprise Business Park. There are a number of different businesses, some 5 or 6, that are on the marquee, so we can't tell at this point. We haven't heard officially which place this happened in. We have seen numerous 18-wheeler semi-trucks that are coming and going from here, all stopped along the road on Spasucia Road, and only now are they starting to turn some of those around and make them do U-turns. Even as we speak, you're seeing a couple more lit-up state troopers coming into the area, literally dozens upon dozens of law enforcement all throughout the area. But at this point, we still have no word on if this shooter has been injured in any manner, if they're still at large. We are just waiting. They're going to have a news conference coming up in about a half hour. We understand that'll be the first formal briefing. Otherwise, it's just tidbits that are coming out on Twitter. So that's the live scene from here for now. Jeff Hager, back to you.
Okay, folks, so for the update here, you are watching live here on News Now. We are learning from the Associated Press that law enforcement officials saying that multiple people have been killed in this shooting here that we are taking these live pics from right now. Let's go back just full right now to the aerials right here. This is near Aberdeen, Maryland. It's actually in Perryman. As an official says, multiple people have been killed in a shooting. The law enforcement official has knowledge of the shooting but wasn't authorized to discuss details by name. The Hartford County Sheriff's Office tweeted that there was a shooting this morning in the Perryman area that involves multiple victims. The FBI's Baltimore field office tweets that it's responding and assisting the Sheriff's Office with an active shooter investigation. So right now, folks, we are learning that about 30 minutes we're going to be getting a police update. We're watching here live on News Now, everyone.
That they were escorting out. Do you know if they have made it out of the building, and have they made it to the buses? I'm holding the buses out.
To my knowledge, they have not made it out of the building. I can switch over to APD's channel if I need to.
Okay, can you check? Because I've got 2 bus full of people. We're holding up just for them. I'd like to make that a priority without too much risk.
Yes, sir. Taking care of it now.
782-104. The only victim or witnesses that they brought out was that Hispanic female that they brought down earlier. We're going on everybody else. There's nobody else in here so far. Okay. 760 dispatch, switch up the Chakra phone number. 104 to 502. Good eye. 3-3. 24. We understand you have located some victim witnesses. Do you need assistance in getting them out? And if so, what store are you at? There's only one right there. There's already been one there. An 51-year-old female diabetic, corrected with D15.
3 to 4 school buses, Happening Harper County school buses, that came to the scene here just about the top of the hour, and as we believe those were evacuating.
1-4. Is there a possibility that down to this location?
A pair of buildings.
Down here.
A warehouse type.
I'm sorry, that one of the ones.
Spoke to a young woman whose mother works inside. Describes them as a close-knit family, in fact, of people working in there. And so it'd be interesting to see, you know, if that office was indeed affected, or if her mom could hear something that was going on elsewhere. But her mom, you know, in a text to her says, "Listen, I'm hiding. There's someone shooting." And so, you know, take care of things at home.
You at say 69 on the backside, if you want, we can make an entry that has towards that other victim that you just located out for you.
Not just the people working there, but then all the people associated with them. You know, just wondering right now what's going on.
Stand by, man. 12375 now.
Situation right now. There's no shooting going on.
Yeah.
However, we do understand.
There's only for one witness, right? From the bathroom, there is all this, right?
Yes, I can update this information. A law enforcement source tells me that the shooting suspect is in a hospital, that the suspect is a woman and has been taken to a hospital. The source tells me that there are multiple dead and wounded victims. Number, not exact, but I was told less than 10. That is the latest information I have. And again, we are expecting a media briefing within the next 30 to 40 minutes to pull together all of these details that are slowly emerging. But again, what I have been told by a law enforcement source is that the suspect in this incident, a woman, has been injured and has been taken to a hospital. So there's obviously no active shooter situation going on, and that there are multiple, word used to me, multiple fatalities and wounded people as a result of this incident.
Sure, I don't know this now, but as far as getting to the hospital, is this someone was captured, or just right now we just know that's where she is?
All I know is that the suspect is in a hospital, and I don't know the circumstances of that, of what happened that led to that. But what my law enforcement source tells me is the suspect's in the hospital.
Jay, thank you.
And as far as you know, just one suspect.
As far as I know, there's one suspect.
Okay.
And I don't know any other details about connection, what the connection to the workplace is, anybody. I've heard nothing of that at this point.
Yep, we'll let you go do what you do. Thank you, Jane. We appreciate it again. So this is what Jane is telling us so far. The suspect in this, she's learning from a law enforcement source, could be in the hospital right now, at least from what that source is saying. The source identifies the person as being a woman.
A woman, which is unusual.
From all the other cases that we've heard, yeah, this is...
And she's also multiple dead. The Associated Press was reporting that as well.
Yeah.
Jane also reporting and hearing that multiple
Adam 124, good copy.
Not an exact number, but less than 10 from what she understands.
Yeah, and we can go back to the governor now if you want to, because we can look at that tweet as well. Some folks may be tuning in now to see whatever they watch normally at about 11:30 right now. The governor chiming in, saying, calling it a horrific situation, saying that he's offering his support to all those involved in this, and saying that our local law enforcement is going to go out and do the job they always do. Also heard from Senator Cardin as well, echoing a very similar message, offering support to all those out there who are working and those who may have a loved one involved.
And Dutch Rupersberger also commenting on Twitter, if we have that and pull that up. I'm sure offering similar thoughts this
Great
morning as the situation is unfolding.
Yeah, it's such a situation, you know, and it's really, you know, it's taking on quite a presence online right now. We heard from Kate Amaro saying that she had just gone through Facebook and just did a search, and just a number of relatives, loved ones, people who live in the area, people who may have been there and just visited before, the amount of chatter just checking in on each other, just to make sure everyone is okay, she says has been immense, in saying that they had all, at least the ones in the area, had noticed the law enforcement response, seeing how big it was, and now Facebook has really become, and Twitter and all of them really,
just
become a meeting spot.
Absolutely,
you know?
yes, for sure. Let's go to Lo Melzer now, who's on the phone. Lo, where are you?
I'm actually at the scene right now. I'm at the Enterprise Business Park, where this Clorox company building is, the Rite Aid building here on Perryman. And if I could paint a picture for you what it is, what's going on out here right now, this sense of urgency has definitely dropped tenfold. I'm looking at a bunch of camouflaged SWAT officers that are just kind of standing around, almost looks like they're going through a debriefing right now with their supervisor off to my right. Looking straight ahead onto the property, just a sea of emergency vehicles, also a couple of school buses as well. People inside, probably employees that are being brought from this facility onto those school buses to then take off the property. Just watching a Harper County Sheriff's Office crime mobile lab come onto the scene as well. There are numerous fire trucks. And basically you have Sheriff's Office directing traffic as well here. But the sense of urgency has definitely died down a little bit. It makes me feel that this is fairly under control here. In order for us to get here, all the roads around here closed off. We really have to walk through backyards to get onto main roads and cut over and finally get out here to the scene. As we speak, again, those school buses are making their way off of the property here, and I'm going to try and see, if you bear with me here, try and see if they are full of people. It looks like, yeah, they are full of people, probably most likely employees of this building that are being escorted out here as we speak. Off to the left here from this facility, there is an Aberdeen Fire Department post, ironically, off to the side here. Looks like number 4 Perryman Station, ironically, and you have to wonder if these folks were probably the first people here on the scene.
104 to 505.
I'm over to this fire department right now to see if anyone will talk to me.
Okay, FBI has a tactical contingent. They're going to start on the admin side. I'm not sure they have our call crew, but they will be announcing themselves. If your people hear blue, 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 you will know it's them.
Okay, all right, guys, if you can bear with me, I'm trying to see. Hey, were you guys?
Are they coming to the main lobby?
I'm with WVAL.
Say it again.
Can you guys? All right, they're trying to get someone to talk to you guys. But yeah, there's literally a fire station that's right next to this property that you'd have to think they at least heard the commotion first and were able to get over there. I'm trying to see if there's someone. Okay, all right, they're sending me to the media station here. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get a story from them. But just to paint that picture again, that's what we're dealing with here. At the scene, there is a fire station that's directly across from where this happened, and I'd be interested to hear what happened with them, and we'll try and effort to see that. But again, to wrap up the urgency here, not as fluid as it was before. It seems that things have really calmed down, which is good news.
I don't know if you heard Jane's report, but you mentioned the urgency has calmed down. She's reporting, she's hearing from her sources that the suspect is in a hospital right now, and it's a woman.
Okay, yeah, I had heard that it was a woman, but I haven't been able to confirm that. She's been able to confirm that. Yeah, multiple sources out here, just witnesses on the ground, said it was a woman. As far as her status, I do not know.
599 on EMS.
The investigator.
599 1124. 93-year-old male, unresponsive.
I know you guys have been getting reports all morning, and we've been driving up here on 95 and 695. I apologize, I'm out of breath. There's a lot of walking to do here.
No, we understand.
I don't know if you also heard that Associated Press is now reporting 3 killed in this shooting. That's according to the Associated Press.
Yeah, and we had that number, too, from someone that actually our own Jen Franciotti has, I believe it's a relative that works in one of these buildings that had that information, and we were trying to confirm that. But, yeah, that seems like what it was. She actually had that information a while ago, but we weren't able to confirm it given that the situation was so new and fresh. We weren't getting a lot of information as far as confirmations. But I heard as many as 8 shot, 3 dead, but I don't know what you guys are hearing on your end. I've been driving, so I haven't been able to monitor the wires too much. But as far as the situation out here, again, there's just a ton of law enforcement out here. I've never seen so many law enforcement, but they are there's not that urgency of people running around or anything. It seems like there's a lot of groups of officers, SWAT members, sitting around and talking. Again, probably just relaying information and figuring out how this situation went.
All right, Lowell, we'll let you catch your breath a little bit. MSNBC also tweeting. They're jumping in. Maryland shooting suspect is according to them a woman. She's down. We're hearing from Jane in the hospital. They're going on to say that the shooting incident was at a Rite Aid facility, as we've been hearing earlier. And this is from Pete Williams saying multiple law enforcement sources are saying that to him. They also, they went through, like we did earlier, the litany of just shootings. The Wisconsin, one in Pennsylvania, judge's office, and one at a retirement community as well, and this one as well. Just does a heck of a week.
Yeah.
You know?
This one is unusual in the sense that the suspect is a woman.
Yeah,
that is
true.
Unusual.
Yeah.
We understand, as we've been reporting, that she was injured and she is in the hospital at this point. And the Associated Press is reporting 3 people killed. Our sources are saying similar things to our reporters. So.
Okay, I think we're going to do the tweets. We're going to start with Governor Hogan. We're closely monitoring from the governor a horrific shooting in Aberdeen. Prayers are with all those impacted, including our first responders. The state stands ready to offer any support. Also this morning, hearing from Senator Chris Van Hollen, he says, I've been in touch with local authorities about the shooting in Harford County. My heart is with the families and victims of those impacted, but words are not enough. We must do more to end the toll of gun violence in our community. That's Senator Chris Van Hollen.
And then we have a tweet from Senator Ben Cardin. He says, just horrific. I'm monitoring this carefully and urge residents to stay clear of that area until further notice.
Dutch Rupersberger is up next as well, saying monitoring shooting. I use the hashtag MD in District 02, hashtag Aberdeen, saying that the sheriff there asking folks to avoid the area, praying for the victims and their loved ones. Please join me. That's all we have for the tweets so far, but I'm sure that before the day is over, we'll hear from many more elected officials in that area as they sort of get a handle on things there. This is, I mean, we've listened to this evolve since we got on the air, from not knowing a whole lot to now to the point where at least some sources are saying a woman involved, 3 killed in this area, and just a multitude of people who work there on a daily basis. It's just an idea. It's a building on that campus and an adjacent office building, shooting out of that window, just to give you an idea. But
gives you an idea of what the location is like. There's a lot of businesses there, warehouses there, very busy area. We're understanding from witnesses that this is occurring at the Rite Aid Distribution Center. In fact, Harper County EMS confirmed that as well. And there are 2 facilities apparently involved with the Rite Aid Distribution Center warehouse area and then the Liberty building.
Right, Liberty building. So they have 2 there. And then on top of that, you have a Clorox nearby and a paper building and just a whole lot of stuff in one area. And so you can just imagine how dangerous for them. Lowell saying he's just hearing, possibly a number of shots happening there. People who, if this is the close-knit family that Alexia, a young woman who called in earlier, if this is the close-knit family that she mentioned in her workplace, you can just imagine what they're going through today. Just the unexpected, one of those things you come in to do your work, not hide from a shooter, and that's what her mom did this morning. Her mother made it out okay, at least from what we hear.
These are some photos from folks that were witnessing a lot of this from their own places of business. Lowell just mentioned a couple minutes ago he's seen a turn in the energy, so to speak. The intensities that had been turned down a notch. Things had seemed to calm down, which would make sense because just moments before, Jane had reported that the suspect, a woman, was in the hospital and that there was no active shooter situation at that time. So that would help explain why Lowell had seen that shift in activity with the law enforcement in the area.
Quick update just coming from the control room now saying Hopkins Bayview is going to have a press conference about 12:30, I believe, Mike. They say they have several victims there. So that's Hopkins Bayview, closer to our area. A number of victims there. So we hear that there are some people were killed here and a number injured as well. So I'm guessing the understanding is that a number of the injured were taken to Hopkins Bayview.
Yeah, for future 25 here.
We also heard word that there were some victims taken to a hospital in Delaware.
Right.
I'm imagining that's probably the Christiana Center, which I know is an emergency.
Yeah, you know well. You're from that area. That's another big hospital, and you know if you're dealing with what sounds like a number of people may have injuries, you may need a number of facilities to help deal with these injuries. And unfortunately, like we've said, you know, not only are we dealing with stuff today, this area, at least this county, has dealt with a mass shooting before, and unfortunately, it wasn't that long ago. So here we go again. That's an idea again. We've been showing y'all morning the map. Perryman Road in Spasucia. At this point, if you live nearby there or you work nearby, then you're not going there today, at least for right now. Most of the area shut down. The major thoroughfares, if you're not familiar, Route 40, not that far to the west of there. Portion of Aberdeen Proving Ground, not too far, if that helps you to zero in on what we're talking about. But our local story has really become a national and a worldwide one now, as AP reporting 3 people killed in this area.
And Lowell had described just a little while ago buses on the scene, and people getting onto these buses. So you know, we could imagine that those are folks that work in those facilities that are being taken away from the area.
Yeah, just, you know, what a morning. You know, you just don't know what to expect. You know, you were working on a project at your desk, and I was working on TV Hill at this point, and then you get that call into the office that, you know, you get small details and becomes a much bigger story. Let's go back to Jane. She's a little distance away from where it's all happening. Jane, what do you know?
Yeah, Jason, we're waiting now for this briefing, which ought to be coming momentarily, or within a very short time, that hopefully is going to fill in some of the details that we've been reporting, and then fill in some of the blanks of those details. So the latest information I have from a law enforcement source is that the shooter, a woman, is in a hospital, that there are multiple fatalities and wounded people. Number my source gave me was less than 10, fewer than 10. I know that Lowell just reported that there may have been 8 people shot, 3 of them fatally. We're expecting to get clarity on those kinds of details in this briefing. One thing that obviously is going to be an obvious question is what's the connection between the shooter and the target of the shooting? Was it someone that knows people there, that worked there? I mean, those are all going to be questions that are going to get asked at this briefing, and something clearly that the investigators that are trying to sort this out as well are looking at too. You know, I was just, one of our digital guys just sent me that text message that you guys have, and you've been talking about all day, from the woman whose mother was in one of the buildings when this started, and you just read it, and you know, it's like, you know, I love you both more than you'll ever know. There's a shooter in the building. I am hiding. I love you. Be good and take care of Daddy and the pets if something should happen. Every week we've got one of these going now in a place where people go to work and think they're going to be safe, and the next thing you know, you've got a situation like this where they're hiding someplace and sending text messages to their loved ones in case they aren't able to talk to them again. It is a frightening and frustrating and scary time, and the second time for this in Harford County, with just about a year ago, with that situation at the granite business near Edgewood, in which a former employee came in, shot people, then fled. Big manhunt ensued. He was captured later that night and is now working his way through the criminal justice system through different trials, both in Maryland and in Delaware. But this is just it's now a weekly event. It's like, well, which place is next? I mean, that's exactly how, when you read that woman's text message to her daughter, you know, a desperate attempt to have some communication with her as this thing was unfolding. You know, people don't expect to have to do that, you know, when they go to work. It's just something that I just reading it before you came to me, and I was just like, wow, you know, how many times do we have to do this?
It's very emotional, and when we were talking to that woman, her name's Alexi, she was describing this, and at that point when we were speaking with her, she hadn't heard if her mother was okay. thankfully, while she was on the phone with us, she got word from her sister that her mother was alive and okay. But you can't imagine what
really
that's
good
like.
to hear, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you wake up in the morning, and that is the text message you get from your mother.
Yeah,
you can't imagine.
The word that Jane used,
well, and for a couple of people, 3 or 4 people that. That's right, and for at least three people that our sources are telling us of 3 fatalities, there are family members who didn't hear from them again.
Right.
So it is. It's a very frightening and frustrating situation.
And she described that workplace, Alexi, as very close-knit. She said there were only about 30 people that worked in that particular office. She said she knows all of them.
104 has the Rite Aid incident.
And she just can't imagine what went wrong. And I asked her if there was anything she knew about happening and any drama at the workplace. And she said no.
The CB wants aviation to stand by, or can we clear Baltimore County and MSDM Aviation?
Obviously glad her mother's okay.
Okay, Baltimore County did clear, but I'll check for reference medevac.
Well, and that's when some of the questions that we're going to have too is just to sort out, what was this about? I don't know that it could be anything, as we see around the country when these happen. But that will certainly be a question that will come up in the investigation. And for the public, too, is what's the connection between the person who perpetrated this and the people in the building.
Sure. Jane, we'll let you get to work there. Also, more Facebook notices come in. Lisa Robinson just stopped in, as did Kate Amara, just giving an idea of just the variety of people who could be there. She's mentioning in a Facebook post a young woman who's disabled, and there's a family member wondering how she may be handling this at that scene. Looks like the young woman's father has gone out to check on her there. But yeah, a lot of the same sentiment, the same frustration that Jane is having there is what this young woman is saying there. Just how many more of these you have to go through? How many more of these you have to look through? Just a bizarre time right now.
It is just difficult to fathom. Yeah. Because you hear about these things happening, but you don't really think it's going to happen in your place of business or your work day. It's just.
It's something else. We'll take a look again at this scene just to catch you up to date right now. We got the call in, at least the newsroom, a little after 9, but the police got the call at about 9. Spusucha and Perryman Road. Sorry, just names get all confused at this point. What we know right now, the AP reporting 3 people dead, and Jane has a source telling her that the suspect is in the hospital.
And we understand that 8 people shot and 3 of them killed is what we're hearing.
Unofficially.
Unofficially, right. And they've gone to various hospitals. We're hearing Bayview. Yep. We also heard a trauma center in Delaware, Christiana. So we're waiting to get confirmation more information from this facility.
Yeah, and there are a number of press conferences that are going to go on. At 11:45, out where Jane is, we'll hear from, that's really, the epicenter. We'll get a better idea, hopefully, to paint the scene for us of what exactly went down there. Hopkins Bayview will hold one of their own at 12:30 to talk about the several victims that they have there. No word yet out of Delaware. Again, this is becoming, it's capturing national headlines. Pete Williams over at NBC also chiming in, saying that what we've already learned, that this is basically done as far as the active situation goes. But you can tell by some of the live pictures, this one's video, live pictures that we've seen, plenty of activity still going on there in that area in Aberdeen.
As for the suspect, we believe just one suspect, a woman, which is unusual.
Haven't heard a lot of that,
in these circumstances. In a hospital, she was injured during the course of all this happening. We don't have a name, we don't have an age, we don't know if she worked there, we don't know really anything about her other than we have confirmed it as a woman.
Yeah, and so then as we go on, we're trying to sort out a little bit more of exactly, how this all happened. We've heard from the governor. He had a lot to say about this being an horrific incident that has happened there in Aberdeen, offering his support to all the people who may be working there as far as law enforcement goes. Heard from Ben Cardin as well. Chris Van Hollen has chimed in as well. Just looked at Barry Glassman's webpage, and he's letting people know that you should check in with the Harford County Sheriff's Office if you want the most up-to-date and factually checked information.
Now, this is a live picture, obviously, from a helicopter where you can get a better idea of this area we're talking about. And as you can see, this is a warehouse facility. You see the tractor trailers lined up there. You see also, I imagine that's law enforcement or folks walk. If we can zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, I see you make an answer.
Looks like law enforcement. An incredible police presence for good reason. Sure. Many different agencies responding to the situation. But as you can see, their demeanor is very calm at this point because there is no active situation at this point. The suspect has been wounded. A woman taken to the
the
hospital.
knockbox
You get
is
an
up
idea of
here.
what Lowell was saying.
I
He
just
described
sent
it as a totally different scene from when he first got
to the
there.
far end
He even
where there's a
encountered
manager
what he
that
thought
should have
could
a key
have
to this
been
building.
maybe
He's
a
going to retrieve
debriefing.
it and bring
Guys
it
just
back.
talking about what they went through at this moment, and then they'll move on
Correct,
from there.
man.
But as you can see, up against the building, there's still a presence there as they continue to investigate what exactly could have happened. I mean, they're peering through windows, and I guess this is all part of the protocol. While it appears to be done, you want to be 100% certain that you are, and so that's what they're dealing with on the left. On the right is where we're hoping to get more information.
That media debriefing is
All
set
my
to
units
occur
respond
in
back
about
to the
5
main
minutes.
command
So
center.
we'll bring that for you to see what new information we can garner. We're understanding from the
This is
Associated
Kim
Press,
999.
3
Check your
people
display and
tragically
advise. Still hasn't
killed
reset.
in this shooting incident this morning in Aberdeen. 3 people killed, according to the Associated Press. We also, our reporters are hearing the same information.
Yeah, and this picture really tells you, and gives you an idea of, how this operation isn't done completely yet. While it's not an active shooter situation still right now, clearing a huge amount of real estate as you pull back, you can tell. I mean, warehouse after warehouse, all of these trucks. I imagine no stone is left unturned at this point. So a lot of work still has to be done before you'll see any of these cars actually leave. But what a massive complex, and then to focus it in on this one incident in this one area is tough work, I'd imagine.
According to Harford County EMS, this is the Rite Aid Distribution Center is where this incident occurred. And from a witness that we talked to, at least her mother was in the building at the time, and there are 2 different facilities there.
Yeah.
For the Rite Aid Distribution Center, warehouse facility, and then the Liberty Building. It was her information that this occurred in the Liberty Building side, which has about an employee number of about 30.
Yeah, you can sort of see a helicopter just there on the side as they were zooming in. It's landed as well there. So, just you want to talk about a big response. A helicopter unit, you see a SWAT unit there. I could see a canine, police dog walking by as we saw that picture of them walking through the area. No expense spared here just to make sure that the folks who come there to just work 9 to 5, just coming in to do their job, can be safe on their way out of that job today. But unfortunately, we're learning that 3 of them, at least, may not have had that experience today.
It's just incredible when you think of it's a Thursday morning, you get up, you go to work.
Yeah.
You would never imagine this. You just never imagine.
Yeah, you really don't. And so now you can see that traffic that you're only seeing. I imagine those are emergency vehicles moving there. Not much commerce happening in the building, and not many people, errands aren't being run through that area today, as a number of law enforcement on the scene. They got their call at 9. We probably heard a little bit later after that and on the air not long afterwards. To bring you the scene, it was really unclear at the beginning. We both were saying that, as it looks like SWAT team making their way inside of a building to check in there. Not a whole lot at the beginning. It was very active at the beginning, very unsure at the beginning, and then details began to trickle out, just of the magnitude of 1, the area that you're dealing with, and then 2, the lives that you're dealing with. As it looks like this operation is going to continue as they search a building there. Look like the number 15.
We're clearing the last section of this building
and
now.
as we're understanding, there are a number of people wounded. 3 people killed, number of people wounded, according to the Associated Press. And we understand some of those that are injured went to Bayview, and we'll have an update from them a little later today.
Yeah.
Also, we had also heard that some of the victims had gone to a trauma center in Delaware, the Christiana Hospital.
Yeah, we can see our crews preparing. This is an even better picture to give you an idea of the size of these warehouses as they go in. If you get a quick look, it's just a huge facility to have to keep an eye on. And so if you can imagine, the teams are working throughout that area just to clear it. Even knowing that the situation could be over, just to clear the situation, you have to get through all of those buildings. And that's a lot of work to be done. But right now, that's what we're hearing. As far as it being active, Jane's sources saying it's not, P. Williams and NBC saying it's not active anymore, but not without the loss of life.
And the suspect, we understand, is a woman. We don't have a name, we don't have an age, but a woman who was wounded during the course of these events and is in the hospital right
So now, the next event that we're waiting for is an 11:45 press conference. We saw them earlier preparing for that. Hopefully we'll be able to fill in some of the blanks that are still remaining in all this. If we can figure out a relationship maybe between the suspect and this building, figure out who may have been lost in this and hurt, the number We're still waiting to confirm that number as well. But as you can tell, if you want to talk about the number of law enforcement that have responded, it's a lot in many different ways and shapes and forms there, between helicopters, vehicles on the ground, K-9 units as well. And as you can see, the operation continues there.
And I just got confirmation from our producer, Mike, that some of the victims went to Bayview. That was the closest trauma center on the ground. And then others taken to Christiana Hospital just north in the Newark, Delaware area.
It looks like police right now are gathering. They may be getting ready for that presser. As soon as that begins, we'll bring that to you live. We know that Harford County Sheriff's Office, they've been responsible for giving information out as far as social media goes, but we know that they've had a tremendous amount of support from other local agencies and also from the feds as well. ATF there, FBI there as well with their mobile crisis center. Jane Miller, I can see you. We're going to come to you. Jane is there getting ready for that presser. We'll give her a couple seconds. And what do you think upstairs? Go to Jane now and hear from her as she gets set? Not yet. We're going to wait for her.
As Jane mentioned just a little while ago in her last hit, there's so many questions to be answered. What was the relationship of this person with the people, the victims involved? What you know, spurred this?
Yeah. It's just incredible.
So many questions, and it just doesn't, you know, it baffles them all. What would lead somebody to do this?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a live picture, if that was a video there. That was a live picture of one of the state trooper helicopters there. Looks like they're preparing to leave this area. It had been sitting idle for a while, but look, they're powering up now. James, so what do you think? We're getting close to this, and hopefully we'll learn some more.
Yeah, I believe we're waiting for Harford County Sheriff Jeffrey Gaylor, and I don't believe I've seen him yet. He will probably be the one that leads the briefing. There are multiple agencies involved, both local and federal, and a state as well, but they are probably the lead agency, the Harford County Sheriff's Department, and so I think that's who we're waiting for. And I haven't seen him on scene yet, so this 11:45 briefing is going to be a little later, obviously. But, you know, what they want to do in a situation like this is try to get as much information nailed down as they can so that they can provide information that is not going to change later. And so we would expect that we'll hear the exact number of people who were wounded and killed. We would expect that we might hear more about the suspect, what they may know of what may have provoked this. It's a little early to have a whole lot of information about that. From an investigative standpoint, they would have to talk to, you know, people that know the person, family, etc., to kind of figure out what was going on. And you know, as we've reported, the suspect, according to a law enforcement source, is a woman and is in a hospital, and so it is not an active shooter situation. This is a concluded event, obviously tragically so, but now it's a matter of sorting out what happened, why did it happen, you know, what was involved.
All right, Jane, we're watching a picture now. Some SWAT team members still keeping an eye on some buildings there. The Maryland State Trooper helicopter is about to leave, so you really get an idea, at least at the scene, that things are slowly wrapping up.
Well, yeah, and, you know, they want to make sure that they account for everything, including evidence. And so, you know, they're not going to release that scene to just open it up anytime soon. They'll continue to work at that scene. We haven't heard anything that they're looking for an additional person that was involved in this. So, but you just want to make sure that there's nothing out there that you don't account for.
It's remarkable that law enforcement.
We now hear that this is it's about 5 to 10 minutes out. Okay. Is what we're told on the briefing.
Just an incredible law enforcement presence, Jane, from so many multiple agencies.
Well, in Harford County, you do have multiple agencies involved. You've got the Aberdeen Police Department, which is just up the road. You've got the Harford County Sheriff's Office, which handles a lot of the criminal investigations and a lot of the emergency response. Maryland State Police have a presence here. You've got the Aberdeen Proving Ground not far away, and they have a police agency as well. So there are a lot of different law enforcement agencies involved, and when something like this happens, you tend to get this kind of all-hands-on-deck response. With, you know, just everybody jumping in a car and getting here, and it's clear that there are a lot of people, and that's because, you know, you want to make sure that you're not trying to chase somebody down, you're not trying to find somebody, that there aren't other people in harm's way, that you don't have a hostage situation. All of those kinds of things are possible when something like this happens, and so you know, kind of send in all the troops to make sure that you can handle whatever it might be. And now this would really turn to an investigative stage in terms of, you know, to try to answer what the connections are, et cetera, et cetera.
Jane, we're going to break off for just 1 second, and we want to let some folks know about a tweet just from the Harford County Emergency Operations Center. Partially activated due to the situation in Perryman, which remains fluid. Citizens should continue to avoid the area. The Harford County Information Hotline, 410-838-5800, has been activated for family and loved ones. So that's important information to get out, that phone number to call. If you have a loved one that you cannot get a hold of in that area, you need to know what's going on. 410-838-5800 is the number that you can call.
So it'll be a busy one for folks living nearby there, and also for people, if you know someone who lives or works here, you can see the number of people who work there. Clorox Company, Rite Aid, Zenith is on that sign, True Air is there, and then Maine's Paper and Food Service, I believe that sign says. So a number of different organizations under a couple different warehouse roofs there. So it gives you an idea of just the sheer number of people who work there. So I'm sure text messages and phone calls and whatever else have gone out all morning long just to say, hey, are you okay, for folks who work in that area.
And you can't imagine the anxiety that you would feel if you haven't been able to get a hold of your loved one.
That's right. Do we need to divert?
Jane, we wanted to get that phone number
down to them to expedite it.
No, absolutely. And, just by the hospitals involved, with Bayview to the south and Christiana, Delaware to the north, I mean, tells you the kind of range that is involved here in Harford County and in this area. And that includes the fact that employees come from all over to work in these warehouses. This is a huge warehouse district in this area along Route 40 and Philadelphia Road and 95, in the Aberdeen, Edgewood area all the way up to the Susquehanna River. And if you just look around, for an example, just to my right is a trucking distribution center across the road there. I mean, this kind of workplace is very common and very much a part of the economy of this area. So as you sit at this intersection, and we're about 10 minutes or so from the scene, but if you sit at this intersection, you see a constant traffic of tractor trailer trucks because they're servicing all those warehouses. So yeah, I mean, this is a very big employment area for this area, and lots of people that find their jobs in that warehouse district.
Speaking of that, Jane, if you're worried about a loved one in that area, this is information from Kate Amara. There is a family reunification center at the Level Fire Company in Havertide. So if you're worried about a loved one, that is the place to go. If you need to reunite with a loved one who works in that area or lives in that area, you go to the Level Fire Company in Havertide.
And also Kim Dacey chiming in, also saying down there at Bayview Hospital, they are preparing for their own press briefing, 12:30 again, confirming they have several of the victims from the Harford County shooting there. So we know that they have some patients there. Delaware, as Jane was saying earlier, just the number of agencies and hospitals involved gives you an idea of what exactly they're dealing with in that area. You can tell right now, at least from the activity at that scene on the helicopter picture we're showing you now, that it is definitely in a different phase, that the energy that we saw earlier has changed as we're looking at this situation. The active shooter situation is, for the most part, over. There are teams still going through the building looking just to make sure that they can clear that scene. As Jane said, they want to make sure that everything is taken care of before they open things up for people to go back in. The most chilling moment that we've had today, at least, was a young woman whose mother was working inside, and she got a text message first saying that, I love you, there's a shooter inside, we're hiding, and then to have a follow-up about an hour later into her sisters from the mother saying, I'm okay, I'm on the outside.
But an agonizing hour of not being able to get a hold of her mother, who essentially was saying goodbye. She didn't know if she was going to survive, and tragically 3 people have been killed in this situation.
Yeah, 3 killed, a number hurt. The injured have been taken around to many different places on the ground by ambulance. We also saw the Maryland State Trooper helicopter. Not sure if anyone was in there being carried anywhere as well. The situation has gone on for much of the morning now. We're nearly, I guess, about 3 hours since the first call went out to police, and we've been on the air not that long afterwards. A huge complex there. We showed you the sign earlier. It looks like it comes under the umbrella of Clorox, but there were a number of others there. There was a Rite Aid, a paper company as well, and two others where I guess a number of people work on a day-to-day basis, so that place was probably full.
Right, and this happened at the Rite Aid Distribution Center. There's two parts of that facility. There's the warehouse. We are told this happened in the Liberty Building, which is a smaller facility right next door with about, we're told about 30 employees, according to the woman whose mom was inside there. We're hearing from a lot of folks on this. Of course, our elected officials are speaking out. Governor Larry Hogan. We're closely monitoring the horrific shooting in Aberdeen. Our prayers are with all of those impacted, including our first responders. The state stands ready.
But we saw there is a paramedic at Company 4 House 1 with the sheriff's office who had been through that training. So unfortunately, they're well versed in that. Again, the chopper just left here. We're waiting for word on the extent of injuries, but we know there are multiple injured as well.
They're going to be the closest unit since their ABL showing them at 40 and Woodbridge.
Johns Hopkins Bayview, and we're expecting to hear more from at least Johns Hopkins Bayview later on today.
Quick question for you. Are you hearing anything? I'm getting word that they are telling people to go to Havre de Grace to reunite with family members, but I'm trying to get confirmation on that. Level Fire Company?
That may well be true. However, actually, the Harford County Sheriff's Office just said that they were a few minutes delayed, but that they're going to get their briefing underway. So I'm thinking that they'll provide more information about that when they do their press briefing. All we know from the scene right here is that they evacuated people out. They brought the medevac in. They have a large presence here. We've seen a lot of ATF agents who are armed with their vests here. We saw some activity just a few moments ago, and we still see a number of police officers standing by here on Spasucha Road, the entrance to this distribution center. And from what the Rite Aid is telling us is that the shooting happened at a support facility that is next to a larger building. But they've got to go through here, I'm thinking, and make sure that they, cover every square foot of this, so that if there is any risk or danger here, that that this is safe for people. So this is still a developing situation here, and police have not stood down yet. I mean, you can see from these pictures just how many law enforcement are here, as this the number just has kept growing since this shooting was first reported a few minutes after 9 o'clock this morning.
It's ironic in a terrible way that this would happen again in Harford County, because generally Harford County is a very safe county. The Sheriff Gaylor would want everyone to know that. When they lost 2 deputies, it was the first law enforcement they'd lost in decades. And but this is again a large workplace area, and there are more guns than people in this country, so these shootings continue to happen.
Yeah, it was just 11 months ago that Roddy Prince shot 3 employees at Edgewood. Also interesting, Denise, that you say that Capital Gazette is now following this as well, and they just lost their own employees in a workplace shooting. This has happened 3 times here in Maryland. This is the 3rd incident since March. We had Great Mills High School where there was a shooting, the Capital Gazette, and then of course, as you mentioned, Panera, that was 2 years ago, and then Edgewood last year, and now this one at the Rite Aid Distribution Center. And it's deja vu here, where we're sitting up here and we're telling you about a workplace shooting and a suspect and casualties and people being evacuated to area hospitals, and it's so disturbing to continue following this.
We have a heavy rescue with an extended expertise, and this is the driver of a tractor trailer. This man is approximately 50 years of age. Airway status currently taken intact. He's an alert patient. Struck his head. He did lose consciousness. He's reporting that, as well as some nuance paralysis at this time. We're continuing to move forward with the extrication. No obvious bleed, no obvious deficits or other injury at this time. He is pinned driver's side to the pavement. So in the vehicle, but it's just taking us a while to get him out. We'll give you an update when we have further.
Many press conferences today. Law enforcement is generally very good about giving us any information they can when they can. So we expect that this process will be staggered throughout the day as the situation unfolds.
Our concern is soft ground with the amount of rain we have. We do have a large field off of Wilkinson Road. You can, we're right here at that intersection. There's a home. Unfortunately, I don't need the numerics, but it's a very short road. We can certainly meet you there. We just don't know what your landing capability is going to be with the soft ground.
Reports of an active shooter at a few minutes after 9 this morning. So this is just less than 3 hours into this investigation. So generally we will get information from police as they can release it.
When we have someone on the way to get you.
This has now become a multi-agency effort as so many of these mass shootings do. So those information have to be coordinated between various law enforcement agencies, and of course we want to make sure that they get this right. We've already seen Hartford County pushing on social media to make sure that you're getting your news from a credible source, because so often we see the rumor mill start going in these situations, but they are promising us an official update here any moment, and as soon as we can bring that to you, we of course will. We know a lot of people are closely watching this situation.
Kimberly, I want to interject here for a second. It seemed to imply that you now can confirm that it is no longer an active shooter seen. Is that correct?
Those are the reports that we've seen on Twitter, Denise, but again, we are waiting on all of this to be confirmed. But again, they are still on scene. Those are some of the reports that we're seeing on Twitter. We're also seeing reports that other businesses nearby may be locked down. But again, this is a very new investigation, and we are waiting on authorities to update us.
Right. And those reports that you're seeing on Twitter, are those from reliable sources? Because I'm happy to hear it if it's correct. I want to know if indeed it is no longer an active scene.
Well, Denise, I'll work to clarify that here in a few minutes, but that's what we're seeing largely reported.
Good. I hope that's correct.
All right, Kimberly, thank you so much. If you are just joining us and you are tuning in for WJZ News at noon, we are following breaking news in Hartford County, where we have confirmed that 3 people have been killed.
Keep playing together.
Live from Television Hill. This is WJZ
shooting has done this morning. They have been giving some updates, but very little detail. We've been able to do that through source reporting, etc., of trying to clarify some of the details about this shooting. But now we should be able to get a fuller accounting. I will say that the kind of practice of the Hartford County Sheriff is to give as much detail as he can. He in the Edgewood shooting a year ago, he provided a lot of information as he could do it with confidence that he was giving accurate information. So I think we will expect to hear a lot of detail. You can there he is over there on the right behind the white car. That's Jeff Gaylor. So that's who we're waiting for.
Sorry.
And Jane there's getting set for this event now. Press event number, at least from that brief look. I don't know if we can make it way back over, but a lot of different uniforms about the podium. And again, also at the scene as well there as they brief themselves and sort of debrief on what they've dealt with. Maryland State Police well represented. There's another look. Hartford County Sheriff, you can see them represented. I believe some of the federal uniforms as well, and I believe that's the county executive on the right. Also, so they're approaching the podium now. It'll be interesting to hear exactly how this all happened. We know 3 people killed in shooting sources and perhaps a female suspect involved as well. Let's see.
3471, we're upstairs.
Good afternoon. My name is Christy Hopkins, Director of Media and Public Relations for the Hartford County Sheriff's Office. With me today, I have Sheriff Jeffrey Gaylor and our County Executive Barry Glassman to brief you on the events of this morning. I just briefly want to remind everyone that watching the reports this morning, there was a lot of misinformation already out and circulating. And so I please urge you to follow the Sheriff's Office on our social media feeds. That will be information that is confirmed and vetted through our office. We will continue to update you throughout the day. We will not take any questions at this time after the Sheriff and the County Executive statements. And I will let you know on Twitter again when the next media briefing will be. Thank you.
What's the Twitter name?
Hartford_Sheriff.
Another tragic event for us here this morning in Hartford County. To begin with, I want to thank everyone for their patience. Unfortunately,
The county exec and I and all of our law enforcement partners have been standing here before. We stand here yet again today. Many people have been affected by the events this morning. And our prayers, the prayers and thoughts and prayers of the Harford County Sheriff's Office go out to all those affected. We are so preliminary into this investigation. I know there's a million questions. We're not going to take any questions today. I know you have many, but as Christy said, it's so important that we deal in facts. There's families that are irreparably harmed from today's event. We don't want to make it as if you could make it worse. You certainly can. We don't want to be part of that. We want to release facts, so please allow us the time to gather facts and share those with you. I'm going to give you as much information as we can right now, even though it's very preliminary and it's very limited. At about 9:06 this morning, a report came into dispatch center from the Rite Aid Distribution Center of shots fired. Immediately, deputies, officers, troopers, other first responders responded. We were on scene just in over 5 minutes. Arriving law enforcement, fire, and EMS units quickly paired up together, got into the building in order to render first aid where appropriate, treat patients, and an attempt to locate a suspect or suspects. At this time, I can confirm multiple wounded and multiple fatalities. Based on what we know right now, and again, very preliminary, the lone suspect in this incident is in custody and is in critical condition at a local hospital. It appears to be a single weapon that was used, a handgun, and there were no shots fired by any of the law enforcement officers responding to the scene. We do not believe that there's an additional threat anywhere to our Harford County community. We have set up a family reunification center working with the county executive and our county partners at the Level Volunteer Firehouse. And again, this investigation is very early. I and our office will be happy to give you more information as it becomes available. Again, I ask you keep the victims of today's tragic event in your thoughts and prayers. And I also have to thank our fellow first responders. We have responders here from the federal government who were on scene within minutes, the FBI, the DEA, ATF, state police, MDTA police, natural resources, the local municipal departments of Aberdeen, Haverty, Grayson, Bel Air, you name it, as we've seen, unfortunately, in our community before. When something like this happens, you can't have enough police and you can't have them fast enough, and we are very fortunate here that everyone works so well together and responds so well together that we were on scene and able to get as much aid in as quickly as possible. So that's what we have for you at this time. Christy will put out a little later when we're going to have some additional details, and I know you're anxious for them. We'll be as timely as we can, and the county executive did want to offer a few thoughts this morning. Sir? Can I get your name? Sheriff Jeff Gaylor, G-A-H-L-E-R.
Thanks, Sheriff Gaylor. Barry Glassman, the Harford County Executive. I just got off the phone with Governor Hogan a few moments ago and updated the governor on the incident so far as we know it. He offered all of his resources available under state government. We certainly appreciate the Maryland State Police, all the allied agencies that responded. You know, I followed this probably from the moment the call came in on our dispatch and listened to the radio transmissions. Unfortunately, in today's world, we have active shooter drilling and drills, and I can tell you and tell our Harford County citizens that every agency performed at the top of their profession, and the response from all our allied agencies was great. Our volunteer fire and EMS system responded with medical units. So I am thankful to all the agencies that came out to help us today to get through this, which is becoming a too often occurrence, not only in Harford County, but in the country. So with that said, we really reach out to those families that are suffering right now, that have lost loved ones, and offer our services as we begin to get them reunified, not only with loved ones lost, but with workers that have been displaced. So I certainly thank all our courageous men and women that have helped us this morning. Sheriff, are you suggesting that the suspect shot his or herself?
Jane, we're not going to give any additional information right now. Again, this is very fluid, and you know us, we will be sure to provide you the information as soon as we have it, so follow our feeds, and I will absolutely let you know when the next media briefing will be today, and hopefully we'll be able to nail down some of those other details and give you a better picture of what unfolded. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we've just gotten an idea of a little bit more clear picture, a lot of things that we've heard before, but now all confirmed. I'll give you a little bit in so Mindy. 9:06 is when the phone went out. The call to police to the Rite Aid Distribution Center for shots fired. Deputies responded there within 5 minutes to give some first aid to folks inside. Inside, they found multiple wounded and multiple fatalities.
The Associated Press is reporting 3 people killed. That was not necessarily confirmed by the sheriff, but this is confirmed from other sources. 3 people dead and multiple others injured. The lone suspect, we're told, is in critical condition, and Sheriff Gaylor said a handgun was used, but no shots were fired by law enforcement. And you heard Jane attempt to ask a question there. Are we to presume then that she turned the gun on herself?
Yeah.
But we didn't get an answer to that.
Yeah, and they followed up saying that also no additional threat in the area. So the belief is that this person who was involved, who's in custody as explained right now, that was it, one person. Let's check in with Jane now. What did you get out of that?
Well, actually, it's less detail than I thought we were going to get. As I had just said before that briefing, that Sheriff Gaylor usually tries to provide some, fill in a lot of the blanks after a situation like this. I think by the end of the day, we'll probably have that. We are only a couple of hours into this, but it is significant that when he said that no officers fired, well, that would certainly suggest the suspect did somehow try to harm herself, but they were not taking any questions. So that's as much as we know is what, what we've reported according to source information, and that he is confirming multiple fatalities and multiple people wounded.
Hartford County Executive Barry Glassman made the point that these active shooter drills are a regular thing that they do. This is happening so often. And he said that every agency performed at the top of their profession. They did arrive within 5 minutes.
Yeah, heck of amount of time.
It seemed to be a quick response. But as we've talked about before, they've been through this before.
Well, and I think it's important, after the last one of these, a law enforcement official in the state of Maryland said that, I think this was after the Capitol Gazette shooting in Annapolis not so long ago, that any employer who's not doing active workplace shooting drills for their employees, he described an employer like that as negligent, that this is something that, you hate to think about it, but yeah, exactly, that you're in a workplace, and that employers really have to be able to prepare their employees for the best response an employee can give if something like this happens. We're having these weekly. I mean, if you're keeping score, this is going on weekly across the country, and this is not some rarefied event anymore. Second time in Hartford County in a year for a workplace shooting like this. So it is something that I think that as a whole, everybody has got to take into account is what can we do to best prepare for this kind of eventuality. Hate to say it, but it's kind of the way it is, and the track record of what's going on around the country certainly suggests that.
Young woman, Alexi, and she was saying that, one of these buildings, at least from her recollection, you go in and there was security and you could,
There was a metal detector in the warehouse side of this facility.
The 1500 building. And then this other one, this Liberty one, perhaps, she said, and this is just her word, she thought that, it's not that hard.
To walk in. She said
to walk in.
You can walk in, yeah. So I think that's something that a lot of businesses are looking at.
Okay.
Obviously, security. Let's put this number up again.
too, as far as someone would know really the comings and goings of that particular location, because in distribution centers, they're so large, to Vlad's point, they're so large that oftentimes you have the invariable belief people really don't think about as it relates to security, like leaving a back door open so people can come in and out to smoke. Now, people that are familiar with the location will know they can walk in and out of those locations, those points of access, without being detected if there were security. So there's a number of things that are going to have to be examined relative to how that person got access. That's going to be one of them.
And Paul, what kind of, I mean, this was referenced during the press conference, what kind of steps are law enforcement officials across this country doing as we see increasing numbers? And we've always had mass shootings going back to Charles Whitman at the University of Texas, but we've seen increasing numbers of mass shootings across this country over the last 10 or 15 years. What kind, and you heard it referenced in the press conference where they said that this is something that they train for. Is this sort of just standard operating procedure now across all police departments, across all municipalities in this country, that they train and prepare for something like this?
It really is, Vlad. It really is. And what we're seeing, in answer to your first question, what we're seeing really is the big change is the use of technology in a public-private partnership with corporations and police. And what I mean by that is, hypothetically, in this particular industrial park, they have a schematic of their building or buildings. They share that with law enforcement and with SWAT teams, so they have that uploaded into their computers, so when they're responding, they can much more expeditiously and more efficiently identify where the shooter is and where to go and how to evacuate people safely. So this is something that's trained for. The use of technology with respect to sharing schematics, as well as the incorporation of artificial intelligence and closed-circuit television cameras that's being shared with law enforcement, enables them to have eyes on the property before they even get there. So these are things that multi-jurisdictions and multi-agencies are working together on, where years ago it would just be one agency. Now all of them are working together in the various jurisdictions around the country.
So we're showing some live video of the scene right now at what looks like probably the front door of the facility where there might be a receptionist. There's a couple of little sort of yellow markers on the floor there.
Isn't that usually for ammunition?
Or see some sort of evidence. You can see there's police tape right across the front door. So when we talk about how would this person get in, maybe they just walked in through the front door, which, would have been open to the public. What we're also seeing, Paul, is still, despite the fact that this scene is sort of under control, a lot of police officers, particularly armed police officers, are walking through the area. What would be occurring now that it seems like they do have the only person responsible for this? The shooter is in the hospital, gravely injured. So what are officers doing now?
And they're looking for any type of collateral evidence. Now, remember, part of this, Anne-Marie, is that while you're seeing the officers on scene, there are officers off-site that are looking at all the video feeds that they're going to get from that industrial park. So they're following steps that this shooter may have taken, access of where that person came onto the outer perimeter itself, and then they're going to step back and create a perimeter that's past that. So that's what you're seeing. They're looking to see if there's any collateral evidence relative to the information they've been observing from the cameras, to see if there's more information that they're already aware of.
Paul, I think most Americans can understand the history of workplace shootings in this country and why, from time to time, people have chosen to carry out violence against their coworkers or against a company or an institution that they work for. But explain just the evidence that exists out there from law enforcement, from the FBI, as to why, when there's a domestic violence situation, that someone would choose to, attack a spouse or somebody that they've had a relationship with at their place of business and not just at the home.
Well, you know what, Vlad, that is probably the most poignant question of all, and I'll tell you why. Because when domestic violence is the fastest growing aspect of workplace violence in the United States, and has been for the last 7 straight years. Now, the reason why it's so dangerous at the workplace and why the workplace is chosen, because the workplace represents that one portion of that domestic violence batterer's life that he can't control, or in this case, maybe she can't control. Because remember, in domestic violence situations, so much of this is about controlling and manipulating and maneuvering a person's life away from others. The workplace is a safe haven to that person who's being battered. And that's why the domestic violence batterer, the person that is seeking to control that individual has to do this at work, because it's really putting a flag in the ground to say no one's going to control that person but me. That's why we see this over and over and over again. And I get this from interviewing these people. That's why they're going to go to work, because they're going to prove no one controls this person but me.
That's fascinating.
It really is.
We should say that we really don't know what the situation is here. We don't know if this person worked here, if they had some sort of issue with the company, or if they, if it was a domestic. But, we've seen enough of these sort of workplace shootings, and often people, when they're able to walk in so easily, have a personal connection, and often they do work here. But we're still waiting for the details.
Paul, we thank you as always. We appreciate your insights.
My pleasure, Vlad. Anne-Marie, always a pleasure.
We're going to take you now back to our local station, WJZ. You're seeing some tweets up there that have been put up by the Sheriff's Department. Our affiliate, our station in Baltimore, is live at the scene in Aberdeen, Maryland. Let's take it.